All right, guys, Wes here. Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about God of War 6. God of War is one of Sony's biggest IPs, and with the upcoming Amazon show in production, they're likely going to try and keep the hype train chugging along for as long as possible. God of War was Sony's fastest selling first-party game of all time, and God of War 2018 is widely seen as one of Sony's best ever releases. Now, it was previously confirmed that the next God of War game would bring us to a new location and basically serve as a second refresh for the franchise. And in this video, we're going to discuss absolutely everything the community has been talking about regarding God of War 6, both confirmed and of course just pure speculation and theories based on the knowledge we have from God of War Ragnarok. So let me know in the comments if you're excited for the future of this epic franchise. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and also don't forget to enter the 110,000 subscriber giveaway. I'm giving away a PlayStation 5 and a game copy of your choice, so whether that's Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, Hogwarts Legacy, or just a game of your choice. To enter, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, comment your Twitter handle, and then tweet me proof that you're subscribed by tagging me on Twitter at WesNemo. And like I said, the winner will be announced at 110,000 subscribers. Now, in case you haven't heard, God of War Ragnarok is confirmed to be the final God of War game based in the Norse mythology. Now, the original games were based on Greek mythology, and the current series that we just played with God of War 2018 and Ragnarok were of course based on Norse mythology. And while we don't know for certain where the series is going next, we have 100% confirmation that it will not be another Norse themed game. Now, there's been a number of Easter eggs and little hints dropped in the last two God of War games that seem to point towards where we're headed next, with the main two contenders seemingly being Egyptian and Mayan mythology. Granted, there are some references to Japanese, Irish, and Celtic folklore in God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, but most people in the community agree that either Egypt or Maya are the next destination. Now, personally for me, I think Egypt is the next stop on the Kratos pain train, mainly because of its rich mythology and numerous gods and deities that we could potentially face off with. Now, I'm not saying that Mayan mythology doesn't have a rich history as well, because it absolutely does. But when you're looking at this from the perspective of a God of War designer, you're probably leaning more towards Egypt because of all of the awesome set pieces you can make out of the stories, as well as the iconic names and imagery that you could show in the trailers. Plus, after Assassin's Creed Origins, you can't deny that a lot of gamers are itching for another game set in the ancient Egypt time, so Santa Monica Studios could essentially corner the market there. Multiple people on the God of War design team have expressed interest in the setting of the next game being in ancient Egypt, and Cory Barlog himself, who is believed to be the next game's director, has stated in interviews that Egypt was almost chosen as the setting for the 2018 game. And don't quote me on this, but apparently there was some early concept art that was developed that showed what God of War 2018 would have looked like had it been set in the world of Egyptian mythology instead of the Norse mythology. So now that God of War 6 is going to be taking us somewhere new, I still think it's very likely that we will be headed to Egypt. With the change in setting, there are a few things that could happen to the established cast of characters. Many community members have been talking about what's going to happen with characters like Freya and Mimir, and personally I think their fate is entirely dependent on how dedicated Santa Monica Studios are to the, I guess, reboot aspect of the next game. God of War 2018 was smart about how they acknowledged the previous games, from the different shrines to even references from Kratos himself. But when it comes to God of War 6 and the resetting of the series again, I don't know if Santa Monica Studios can get away with explaining things pretty vaguely. I think it's almost certain that they will have to reference characters from the previous mythology. So the question kind of remains, is this: is God of War 6 going to be a full reset, or is it going to be a direct sequel to Ragnarok that changes the setting for us? One possibility is that we get a direct sequel that pulls some kind of magic shenanigans and transports Kratos to the world of Egyptian mythology. If that's the route Santa Monica Studios takes, then I think it would make sense for us to expect Freya and Mimir to potentially show up in God of War 6. However, if Santa Monica Studios decides to do another full reset where they basically start from square one again and make the last couple of games kind of a myth, then we probably shouldn't expect anybody to return aside from Kratos. Whether or not the Ragnarok cast returns entirely depends on how Santa Monica Studios decides to make the next game, and right now we just don't know where they're going with this, so it's really hard to say. I mean, they're so early in production, it's like so pre-production that we have no way of knowing. Now, it's undeniable that Atreus was a major part of the current series, and some have suggested that the new series will focus more on him, but I personally don't agree. Kratos was and always will be the face of God of War, and although Atreus looked like he was going to take the center stage for a little bit more in Ragnarok, I don't think that's going to carry on into the future. Kratos' father arc was super interesting take on the character, but at this point, Atreus is grown up and is going on his own way. Assuming God of War 6 continues where Ragnarok left off, which again, I could go either way on, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for Atreus to still be hanging around. Surely he'll be referenced and maybe even show up at certain points, but I don't think he's going to be a main character. The arc between him and Kratos has been completed, and there's not any real storytelling or gameplay reason for him to still be hanging around in the next game, especially if Santa Monica decides to do a full reset again, as opposed to directly following the story of Ragnarok, which is entirely possible. At this point, I think rumors of an Atreus expansion for Ragnarok are more likely than Atreus being a main character in the next game, especially after the Ragnarok writers recently stated in interviews that they wanted Atreus' exit from the story in Ragnarok to be definitive and meaningful. Bringing him back after that would cheapen the impact of Ragnarok's story, and I don't think they want to do that. One thing that I think may change pretty significantly in the next God of War game is the combat. The first 3 God of War games had very similar combat, but when 2018 game came along, it was completely overhauled to be something slower and more methodical. The classic God of War games helped define the hack and slash genre, and that was part of what made these series iconic, but Santa Monica Studios decided to change this, along with the decision to make the story even more serious and grounded. And personally, I don't think a more serious tone necessarily means the high octane hack and slash gameplay needs to be abandoned, but I understand why Santa Monica Studios did this. They were trying to reinvent the formula and come up with a completely new experience, which they successfully did. But when God of War 6 comes along, it might be time to shake up the gameplay once again. I wouldn't be surprised if this means a return to the faster paced, more hack and slash style combat systems of the classic trilogy. Recent games like Devil May Cry 5 and Bayonetta 3 have proven that hack and slash combat can still be fun and exciting, and with how many people still love the classic games, I don't think it's out of the question for God of War 6 to go back to something more similar to the original trilogy. Then again, Santa Monica Studios may also want to keep innovating with the next game and do something totally new, maybe somewhere in between the old and the new. God of War has always been about combat first and foremost, so I doubt God of War 6 is going to scale things down or be less exciting than the previous combat systems, but I seriously doubt it's going to be the same system as the Norse era. With God of War 6 taking us to a new setting, like I've said, the only thing that we can expect is that it will likely play differently from the last couple of games. The only question that remains now is whether it will be totally new or a throwback to the original classic trilogy. Now, one possible way that they can innovate is rather than changing up the combat, they change up the overall game style. So rather than being a linear game, they take the open world approach for the next God of War game, which would be completely wild. Imagine playing an entire God of War game where the experience can be played open world and allow you to take on Kratos' next journey however you decide. I'm kind of imagining like Breath of the Wild style innovation, where they took a more linear based game that was hack and slash, and then they turned it upside down and made it entirely open world. So rather than traveling from realm to realm, you're traveling throughout Egypt as Kratos taking on Egyptian gods, which that completely blows my mind to think about. So when is this game coming out? Well, there's a few ways you could look at it. There was roughly a 4-year gap between God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, but that was also during the global situation. Now, had the situation never happened, Ragnarok likely would have released a lot earlier, making the development somewhere between 3 and 3.5 years long. Given how long it takes to make a AAA game nowadays, that sounds pretty reasonable. However, there was a much longer gap between God of War 3 and God of War 2018, and there are of course several reasons for that. God of War 2018 was a total gameplay reset with a massive change in direction, so it shouldn't be a surprise that it was in development for roughly 4 years. Ultimately, I don't think we should expect God of War 6 to be in development for any less than 4 years, possibly even 5, but I do think that we will see it possibly by the end of PS5's life cycle, but it's probably going to be relatively close to the end, possibly releasing only for the PS6. God of War Ragnarok, of course, was a cross-generation title, and with how massive the IP of God of War is, Sony likely wants to make sure that there's truly a PS5 exclusive game in the franchise before the console is replaced with the PS6. But even still, I don't think we should expect to get our hands on God of War 6 until 2027 at the absolute earliest. And I wouldn't even be surprised if it ends up being a cross-generation title with the PS6 as well. This is going to be a very high-tech game, and since it's going to have a brand new setting and a ton of new mechanics, hopefully even open world, which might make the development even longer, Santa Monica Studios is going to need a lot of time to work on it. So as excited as I am for more God of War, I think we should all accept the fact that we're going to be waiting a long time for it. Personally, I'm stoked to see where God of War is going next. Ragnarok was a fantastic game, and God of War 2018 is still one of the best first-party games Sony has ever released. And since Cory Barlog is reportedly taking the lead on the next game, I am so ready to see what the team comes up with. I'm really hoping we get some more old school gameplay, or maybe even something in between the classic and reboot combat styles. But no matter what they come up with, God of War is yet to have a bad entry in the franchise, so I don't feel silly already being as excited as I am. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below about God of War 6. Make sure you're subscribed with your notifications on, especially so you don't miss out any future update videos like this one. Be sure to enter the 110,000 subscriber giveaway. I'm giving away a PlayStation 5 and a game copy of your choice, so if that's going to be Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, Hogwarts Legacy, or whatever you decide, to enter, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, comment your Twitter handle, and then tweet me proof that you're subscribed by tagging my Twitter at WesNemo. Thank you all for watching this video, guys. This has been Wes, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.